Greetings, traveler. I am the Lorekeeper, bound to the tales of forgotten realms. These are the fragments I have gathered, myths, memories, and murmurs from realms beyond. This is Echoes of Elsewhere. Tonight's tale is set beneath a sky more alive than any other, in a world where the stars are not born, but remembered. They ask me when I first felt the weight of the stars. Not when I was made a seer, nor when I passed my rites, but that night, when I sent Elder Tharan into the sky. That's when I truly understood. I remember the cold most of all, not because it bit, but because it waited. The kind of cold that hushes the world and makes even the wind pause. That's how the night felt the day Elder Tharan passed. Like the world itself knew we were on the cusp of something sacred. We climbed the hill in silence, the path lit only by lantern glow and memory. I carried the fire pot in both hands, the coals inside, smoldering with oils and sage. The rest of the village stayed below. The Ascension is never a spectacle. It's a quiet thing, a final kindness, if you will. Tharan was so frail then. The man who once lifted barrels like twigs now barely filled the ceremonial shroud. Yet his eyes still sparkled. Clear, curious, calm. He never feared the sky. He once told me, "I've seen my light in the dark for years, just waiting for the name to catch up." His great-granddaughter came with us that night, Tara. Just a child, barely up to my hip, clutching a bundle of dried ghost lavender in one hand and my robe in the other. She didn't say much, not until we reached our destination. That hilltop was sacred. The sky felt closer there. The winds had stilled, almost like the world itself held its breath. We stood upon the stones of echoes, flat and ancient, older than any script I've ever studied. And Tharan, he was wrapped in the threads of passing, gold woven and warm despite the hour. I set the coals down and helped Tharan lay back upon the stone. The threads of gold in his shroud caught the starlight as if his body already remembered where it was going. He was ready. Gods, he was so calm. His breath shallow but steady. He held my hand for just a moment and smiled. And then Tara tugged my sleeve. Her voice was small, like it wasn't meant for the open air. "What happens when we die?" she asked. I could have given her a dozen theological answers, but I knelt beside her and said, "We return to the sky, little one, to become light, and the brighter we burned in life, the longer we shine." I pointed to a star as her gaze turned to the heavens. "Do you see that star near the crescent moon? That is my grandmother, Iluna. She sang lullabies sweeter than any flute and baked honey cakes every first frost. I still hum her songs on winter nights when the snow settles deep. I remember her. That's why I see her. That's how she shines." Tara blinked slowly, tears caught like starlight in her lashes. I knew she understood. "Will I see him?" she asked. And I nodded. "As long as you remember him, he will always shine bright for you. And then the moment came. Tharan's breaths grew soft, then shallower still. I could feel it. The gentle loosening of spirit from skin. The final heartbeat, like a bow drawn across the last string. As his breath slowed, I began the rite. My voice did not shout, but it filled the hill like birdsong at dawn. I spoke of his joy, his laugh that could rattle a pot off the hook, of the way he used to carve birds from driftwood and sneak them into the pockets of the town's children, of the time he stood between a storm wolf and a shepherd boy without a second thought. He tilled the soil and fed 3 generations. He was truly a man with no equal. And so I spoke every name he earned, every kindness he sowed, every piece of him that would live on because someone, somewhere remembered it. I called out his life to the heavens, piece by piece, like lighting candles in the dark. And then he passed. Peacefully. And as I spoke the final words, his light, his essence rose. A golden thread, thin as smoke and bright as dawn, drifted upwards, rising slow and sure, drawn to the skies if the stars themselves were calling home a brother. And then a new star blinked awake. Not grand or blinding, but warm, subtle, soft. But for Tara, it was like a bonfire. I heard her gasp. "I see him," she cried. I bent beside her, my voice a breath on the wind. "And you always will, even when the rest of us no longer can. That is the truth of our sky. Some stars are seen by all, great leaders, saints, and legends. But others burn only for one heart, quietly, steadily, until the day that heart stops beating too. And then the light fades, and the stars make room." And there we are. Another echo fades. Until we find the next. Safe travels, adventurers.